You know, the 49ers had a rough night on Christmas. I did too, because I thought the 49ers would beat the crap out of the Baltimore Ravens that night, and I found out otherwise. Earlier that day, we would have been even more certain of the outcome of the game, as we were undoubtedly when we made our picks for that weekend. The Chiefs hosting the Raiders. Easy game for Kansas City. Go in there and win. They came out trying to look like the team they'd been in past years with some of the trick plays that they do, although doing them in your own end of the field, not a great idea.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, the Raiders took it to them. I mean, that was the low point for the Chiefs.
Definitely.
And they had other losses that were ugly and just were not very Chiefs-like, but that was the one, especially that close to the end of the season. They got a lot of people saying, hey, something's wrong with this team.
No, agreed. Like, that was – the other games were like, oh, the Chiefs could have won that, and they kind of blew it, right? It was like you always say, the Chiefs played with their food, right? This was a game where they didn't even show up for dinner on that day, right? I think you heard me later that weekend or whatever, just like I couldn't get over it. That was a disaster that day. That was like turn on the film and go, oh, my gosh. Not only did the Chiefs lose, they were outplayed, out-physical. Nothing was good. Mahomes was bad. The pass protection was bad. They couldn't run. You know, the defense obviously did a pretty good job. We know that. But it was nothing like it was a great Raiders offense or anything. But, yes, certainly a point where after that game, you were a little relegated to like, this isn't going to be their year. Right? Part of the reason why I haven't picked them the last 2 weeks is because teams that go to the Super Bowl don't look like one of the worst teams in football the second or third last week of the season and lose to teams like that. That's where this whole thing is amazing and shocking, but that was certainly the low point, Mike. No doubt about it.
And, it's funny. I'm looking at the transcript of when I talked to Mahomes the week before that game, and he talked about the whole idea of playing on Christmas, and I'm having a hard time finding it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was implicit.
He wasn't love it.
They were going to win.
Didn't
We'll
love
celebrate.
It. Yeah.
Well, right, but he was torn by it, but he was like, but we'll go play the game, and then we'll celebrate after.
Yeah, right.
And I know he meant celebrate Christmas, but it was just kind of a given. We're going to check that box. We're going to win that game, and then we're going to go have our Christmas holiday. And the Raiders played the role of silver and black Grinches on Christmas, and they came in and stole it from the Chiefs, and they got it together in a week. Here's Andy Reid yesterday talking about how that moment, losing at home on Christmas Day, with just 2 regular season games left after that, affected his team.
But I think, Adam, that was a good wake-up call for us. They came out with great emotion. Antonio had them ready to go, but that emotion was the thing that jumped out at you that they played with, and I think it gave our guys a nice little for a better term, a wake up call. That listen, we need to step things up here. Things aren't just going to fall in our lap, and so we're taking everybody's best shot. And here's a team that went through some adversity and they stepped up and were able to present themselves like they did. So we were able to learn from it and move on. I felt all along though we had the ability to do that. We just, like I said, we needed just a little kick in the tail there.
And it worked because the following week they had the Bengals come to town. Even without Joe Burrow, the Bengals were still alive for the postseason. Jake Browning had been playing well. The Chiefs won that game 25-17 and kind of reestablished themselves, clinched their playoff spot. The following week they were able to rest some starters and kind of regather themselves for the sub-zero home game against the Dolphins. And then it was on the road twice. And that's when, by then, they had slipped back into the team that we were used to. That's the wager I made when I picked them to win in Buffalo and then picked them to win in Baltimore, that this is Patrick Mahomes, and we know he's different when the season is on the line. And this is something that we have to adjust and adapt our brains to, Chris, that this is a guy who is still only 28 years old, has experienced a lot of stuff in the postseason, has played better in the postseason statistically than he has in the regular season, and he brings that to the table with him to every game he plays. And you throw in the fact that he's chasing Tom Brady for 7 Super Bowls, it just makes it very hard to pick against him. And then we see what he does.
Yeah.
We see what he does. If he's healthy, we were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
If he didn't have a toe that needed to be operated on literally 3 days after Super Bowl 55,
right.
they would have won that game too. And so he's healthy. I mean, I don't want to tip my hand here, but
you already did.
Good God.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I already did. I already did before the season.
Yeah.
I picked Chiefs 49ers Chiefs to win.
Yeah.
How can I go back on that now?
I know. I picked Chiefs 49ers, and I picked the 49ers to win. I picked the Chiefs. This is 6 years in a row. You can't go wrong picking the Chiefs. There you go. You can't. It's unreal. I think one year I picked Rams Browns, and the year the Rams went to the Super Bowl, I picked Rams Browns. Every other year, you just pick the Chiefs. The guy's special. They're special. Like you're saying, there's an aura, right? I'm in 49ers. Shanahan's my buddy. I'm scared to death. Yeah, how could you not be? I mean, it's 15. It's Magic Man, right? Like we talked about, teams that go to the Super Bowl, they don't play like that on the second or third to last game of the year. Teams that go to the Super Bowl don't lose 4 out of 6 games in November into December, right? That's where it's amazing. It's their greatness. This doesn't happen that much. And it's not easy, like Andy said, and I know you know this, but hey, they've been the hunted really for it's 5 years now. Ever since Brady left the Patriots, they have become the team that everybody goes, oh, whoa, Mahomes, Kelsey, Chiefs. Oh, right there. Hey, family, we played the Chiefs, week 9. You guys want to come in for the game that week? You want me to fly you in? Blah, blah. They get everybody's best shot every week. And, of course, they play to the Super Bowl every year, and they have the shortest offseason. So I think maybe some of that, all of that with some new parts and all of that kind of accumulated into lesser than football in the Chiefs' way there. But that's also where they're remarkable. But I want to ask you this, like in all seriousness, of all the things we're saying, right? Do you ever remember a team that's kind of done it like this, right? Like there's one team that comes to my mind where I go, I can kind of remember, they weren't that great all year, and then they got in the playoffs and they got hot and they went to the Super Bowl. And they were a dynasty team themselves. And I'll throw it out there, the 88 49ers. Remember that? They were 10-6.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I remember it well.
Oh, well, sorry. Of course.
I remember it well. The Vikings were 11-5 that year, but they were the wild card, and they had to go to play in San Francisco. And the year before, the Vikings had gone there and killed them, which I don't think served the Vikings well the following year.
Right.
Because the 49ers destroyed them in that game, won the next game, won the Super Bowl.
Right. That's what that team barely got in the playoffs, that 10-6 49ers team. Then all of a sudden they were like, wait, we know how to win Super Bowls. Let's get it going. Joe and Jerry, and here we go. And then they just started believing like this team, and then all of a sudden they kicked the shit out of the Vikings in the divisional round, went to Chicago like the Chiefs did, beat a great defensive team in a cold weather game. They kicked the shit out of the Bears, and then they saw Boomer Esiason and the Bengals and beat them in the Super Bowl. But that's where, is there any other team you can remember through your history, that jumps to your mind like that, where they were kind of like, all year, and then could turn it on and do that, like to this capacity?
That Cowboys team, we've talked about this a couple of times, that won their 3rd Super Bowl.
The 95 team.
In 4 years.
Yeah.
With Barry Switzer as head coach. They got they were just done. They were cooked. They just wanted to get this thing over with. And then they find out, oh, wait a minute, the 49ers lost to the Falcons. All we got to do is beat the Cardinals, and we're the 1 seed, and that changed everything for them. So kind of like the light went on for them late at a time when they thought it was over.
Right.
That's the only thing that's comparable to it in my mind. I wonder if one of those Steelers teams, like, when they won 4 in 6 years, did they have a rough patch? I don't so.
remember either.
Tough, AFC Championship games against the Oilers, but
right.
and the last 2 Super Bowls weren't, they didn't overpower. Not that they ever really blew anyone out in the Super Bowl, but the last 2 easily could have gone either way.
Right.
Cowboys in 13 and Rams in 14.
Right.
But I'm just trying to think of great teams in the past where we're conditioned to believe they're great. Surely one of these Patriots teams that won a Super Bowl got it together when we didn't expect it. They weren't wire-to-wire great every year.
No.
One of those years, if we sit and think about it long enough, one of those years, it's kind of like, yeah, we didn't see it coming, them pulling it together. Hell, the first year they won it again.
That would be the year I would say
they won it. They
were
5-5.
Right. That would be the year. The other years, I think they did some of that, but they didn't get to the Super Bowl, right? Like 2006, kind of like, whoa, hey, we're in the AFC Championship game. It's against Peyton Manning. Whoa, we're up 21-6 at halftime. Like nobody kind of thought that, and we were like, man, the Patriots weren't like dominant like this all year. They just going to march into the Super Bowl and do that. I felt like, that was a year they were kind of like that, but just didn't get to the Super Bowl. But
that year, though, Matt Casey made a point. Here's a good one.
Right.
The Colts that same year started 9-0, but then
fell off.
They started to fall apart. Bob Sanders wasn't there, right? And they get to the playoffs, and Bob Sanders comes back. Remember, they couldn't stop the run. They were horrible on defense.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Bob Sanders comes back, and everything changes.
Good call, Matt Casey.
And the Patriots did him a hell of a favor. Well, Marlon McCree did him a hell of a favor when he had the interception for the Chargers that would have ended the divisional round game, and he fumbled it, and the Patriots recovered and won the game because the Colts didn't match up well with the Chargers. And the Chargers very well may have beaten them in San Diego at the time.
Right.
Because the Chargers were the 1 seed that year at like 14-2. And Marty Schottenheimer got fired.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's incredible.
Crazy.
14-2. Almost win in the divisional round and set up a win at home and go to the Super Bowl, and Marty Schottenheimer got fired.
Yeah, that was. You're right. That was crazy. That was the Kayson interception. The game's over. The Chargers are going to win. He intercepts Brady.
Marlon McCree.
Oh, Marlon McCree. That's right.
Marlon McCree.
He fumbles, and the Patriots get it back, and it gives them a second gasp, and they, of course, take advantage of it and win the football game there. But, yeah, you're a good call there, Matt Casey, with the 06 Colts, right? There's other teams I know that got hot at the end of the year that came out of nowhere, but I'm talking about teams that were
Steelers.
Great. Right.
05 Steelers, yeah.
But they came out of nowhere.
Right.
But they were like, we weren't expecting them to be Chiefs dynasty, Manning and the Colts. Hey, the Packers of 2010, they made a run at the end of the year and got hot like that too. But again, I think I'm more in the line of talking about like, teams that we had high expectations for kind of crap the bed late
Super Bowl
year,
champion.
And then exactly. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.